Thank you for joining this week's webinar, and it's of course the first webinar of 2025, and this is my fourth year of using this webinar approach to share the fantastic work of policing in using technology and innovative digital approaches to enable our officers and staff to use digital data and technology more effectively. So let's get straight into today's subject, and it's something I hope shows to all our colleagues across policing how you can enable quick and cost-effective problem solving using tools commonly available to us all as a result of the rollout of the Microsoft 365 and the PDS blueprints. This enables colleagues to transform the way they work, promoting efficiency and cost effectiveness, which will ultimately help us to tackle crime and keep communities safe. Now, remember, as we go through today's fantastic specific use case and the solution, the approach of identifying an issue, planning what good looks like, developing a shared business process, then looking to use digital tools that we've all got to make the new approach work, to enable it to work, using the readily available tools can be a huge benefit, both in terms of the service we provide and cost effectiveness. And it can be used in many areas of police. So let me introduce Andrew Goff, who's the Drug Testing on Arrest Coordinator, DTOA, for West Mercia Police. And I've also got Ollie Waring, who used his knowledge of Microsoft 365 to implement the approach, as he was part of the rollout team for 365. So Andy, perhaps you could start by explaining the background of DTOA and the issues you were facing in West Mercia.
Thanks, David. Right, the drug test and arrest is all linked to the government's 10-year drug strategy, which was introduced in 2021. Now, the three key focuses of this are breaking drug supply chains, delivering a world-class treatment and recovery system, and reducing demand for drugs. Now, interwoven into these is a drug test on arrest process that seeks to identify people who are using drugs, committing crime, the intrinsic link between both of them, and then hoping to break the cycle by putting them into treatment and rehabilitation. This is a bit of a wordy slide, so apologies for that, but it's a direct lift from the government's drug strategy, but the figures in there are quite impactful. So drugs misuse is estimated to cost society almost £20 billion a year, something like £350 for every man, woman and child in England. On top of the financial cost, and clearly more important, is the toll on the humans in all of this. The vulnerable victims and the vile county line gangs, organised crime, innocent families whose broken homes are broken by addicts who are seeking to feed their habits, and the 3,000 people a year who lose their lives to illicit drug supply and use. And then behind all of that, you've got the grieving loved ones, obviously. Now, the primary focus of the government strategy is to treat in the community, and drug testing on arrest is key to identifying those people who are using, committing crime, and who will be suitable for treatment and rehabilitation. Just a quick overview of DTOA legislation. So the police can test anyone for Class A drugs if they've been arrested or charged for a trigger offence. At the moment, these offences are mainly acquisitive crime and drug supply, but the government are looking to expand these into domestic violence offences, football violence, offences against children. But as a backup, a police inspector or above can authorise a test if they think that the offence for which a person has been arrested is intrinsically linked to Class A drug use. So this legislation applies mainly to people over 18 who can be tested at the time of arrest. However, if you're over 14, you can be tested at the point of charge. Children under the age of 14 are not eligible for this legislation. So options in the event of a positive test. The first one is that we can require a person to go and sit with a qualified substance misuse worker for an assessment. That normally takes about 45 minutes, and that's a lawful requirement. Failure to attend or engage with that assessment is a criminal offence. And this is the main part of what we've digitised that we'll go on to talk about in a bit. The other things we can do is consider it in granting bail. We can consider it for cautions. and we can pass the details to a court so they can factor it into sentence. So it's quite a powerful piece of legislation. So when someone's given a positive test in custody, we can require them to go and see a drug misuse worker. And pre the digital solution, this was really fragmented in our force. So we've got 5 custody blocks serviced by 4 different service providers. Each block was operating in a silo, and they were booking appointments via paper diaries, emails, spreadsheets, and it was chaotic to say the least. And when you had one custody sergeant who'd got to go and cover another station, obviously had no idea of the process. So quite often things would get overlooked. So when someone fails to attend or engage with their drugs worker appointment, we again had 5 different processes across 5 different blocks. So drugs workers were reporting it via phone to officers in the case, into generic email inboxes. They were using local single points of contact on occasions. We weren't recording it on our crime system. Some custody sergeants were making efforts to record it on a legacy actions database, but as you can see by the flat line slide there, we didn't have much success at all with that. In some years we recorded no breaches, and in the other years very few. And when we come on to another slide in a minute, you'll see the difference that we currently face. To summarise the last couple of 3 slides, we had 5 different assessment booking processes across the force, all of which relied on a mixture of paper diaries and locally held spreadsheets. We had no consistency amongst the custody suites, which was difficult for sergeants providing cover between stations to understand the different processes. And we had a fragmented breach recording process for the drugs workers to come back in and tell us when people hadn't done what they were supposed to. So as an example there, 7 breach offences were recorded by us in 2023, and that was compared to 231 between January and November this year. So now we move into the new digital process, and this is basically, we've got an electronic calendar that you can access from anywhere in our force. Custody sergeant will select the most appropriate drug service to where the person lives, reserve that appointment slot in the calendar. They will then populate our custody system with the appointment details, which generates the national RA1 notice. Now, RA stands for required assessment. This is used by all forces. So once that RA1 notice is filled in, the custody sergeant emails it to a generic email box that Ollie's set up, and from there on in, the automated process takes charge of everything. So all they've got to do is select the most appropriate appointment for where the person lives, and email the RA1 that's generated by the system. So this is the calendar system that the custody sergeants will see. So if they're working at Redditch one day and then Hereford the next day, they'll see exactly the same screen. So it's a one size fits all, replaces all the paper, all the spreadsheets, all the post-it notes that used to be handed around. So that's what they see at the moment. So breach reporting by the drugs workers, we've digitised that as well now. So we keep an electronic dashboard of all the appointments, and when the time and date of the appointment is passed, the drugs workers go onto a Microsoft form link, and it's a real simple form. They've basically got 3 options. They can tick appointment attended, NFA, and the system moves it into a NFA column. Appointment not attended, but there's a professional assessment of good cause. For example, someone's been remanded to prison, and again, the system will then automatically move that into a no further action column. And then the third one is the breach, and it moves it into the breach column on the dashboard and automatically sends the drugs worker a request for a statement. We then, once we receive the statement from the drugs worker, it goes through a quick quality assure to make sure the statement is correct. We do see a few mistakes. And then we click a quality assure button on the dashboard, and it goes off to our crime bureau for crime recording and out to the officer who made the original arrest or who's the current officer in the case to finalise the investigation. So this is the new breach data that we've got coming through. You can see we've lost the flat line now, and we're into a massive spike in recording. I think it's key to note here that the number of breaches we don't think has increased over the years. Those breaches will have always been there. It's just for the first time ever, with the circle being complete on the new digital system, we now know about these breaches. We're recording them on our crime system, and we're documenting the associated actions that go with it. We're hoping eventually that we drop back down to a flat line. And we're hoping that it has a detrimental effect, as the effect of encouraging attendance rather than people not attending because they know nothing will happen.
Thanks, Andrew. So, Ollie, you've developed the approach, and importantly, this is not really what you'd call an app that most of us would recognise. It's more of a business process. And it works on the basic Microsoft 365 stack in the E3 or the E5 environment. Remembering, of course, all forces have the technology to enable the use of all these functions. And we do realise some forces haven't been able to unlock the full potential of the tools so far. But perhaps you could take us through the approach.
Yeah, thanks, David. So there's 3 steps or stages to the solution. The first one starts in custody, as Andrew has described in part, which is booking the appointments and sharing the required assessment notices with the relevant provider. Then we've got the service provider, their updates back into West Mercia, the outcomes of those appointments. And then in the event of a breach, we've got the third stage is a process where we are able to record the offences, collate the relevant documents and get it into an OIC's basket for investigation. So the first one here starts off with a positive drug test in custody. Our custody system is Athena, but it's important to highlight that this is not tied into Athena in any way. This works from a Word document. That's all that Athena gives to us, and we go thereafter. So we book the appointment, generate the RA1 where the signature is obtained saying whether they will attend. That gets emailed by the custody sergeant to a dedicated inbox. Power Automate kicks in and extracts the data from that RA1 Word document. And it populates the relevant fields into lists. We've got a SharePoint list, which is our data source. It then compiles an email to send to the relevant service provider for their information. And the next slide shows an example of such an email that would leave West Mercia. So you can see it's got attached to it the RA1 notice, which we actually changed the file name here to make it more relevant. We know we can't trust police officers to be consistent with file names. It's got the basic details. Obviously, it's redacted here, but enough information for that provider to get it booked into their local systems. We also, 8 o'clock every Monday morning, we send an email to each of our providers just to summarise any overdue appointments where we're waiting for an update, and also any upcoming appointments. So we can just get a quick weekly sync just to make sure we've not got any misalignment in appointments. This is a quick redacted screen grab of our dashboard. So this is a list that's created in, a view created in lists. So we've got a bucket for each status, and then we apply filters across the different blocks. So the local SPOCs can manage their appointments. So the next step, having received that notification, our partners will go ahead and conduct the appointments, we hope, or if they don't attend, and then they'll then use a Microsoft form to update us back in force. Important to note here, this was designed with data protection in mind, and the only information that gets entered onto that form by the partner is a custody reference number. And the outcome, so we're not showing any personal data via that method. They complete the form, pings back to us in force, and Power Automate kicks in again, looks at the response and looks at what action needs to be taken. It will send a confirmation email to the partner to say, great, we got it, thank you very much. And then depending on the outcome of that appointment, it will update the list's data. In the event of a breach, it will then send an email back to the partner requesting them to attach their evidential statement of the breach. and submit that via email. So then third stage is our crime recording. We do our QA work on the statement just to check that there's no human errors or errors in dates of birth, dates of appointment, and it's up to an evidential standard. If that is all up to standard, we then we identify an OIC, and Power Automate then generates an email to our digital desk, which is our crime recording department, crime bureau, if you like. They manually will then enter the offence into Athena, again, our crime recording system. That's created in the original OIC's collar, and we ask the digital desk to reply to the DTOA inbox with a crime reference number, which is then automatically picked up and closes the circle, and our lists data in SharePoint list gets updated with a crime reference number, which is the end of the process. So here's an example of the email generated to our crime bureau. It is designed to be as simple as possible for the staff at the other end who are copying and pasting into Athena. It is designed around the fields that Athena expects in the order that it expects them. We recognised early on that to get buy-in from another department was going to need it to be as simple as possible. So everything that they need is on this email, including, you'll see the attachments of the offence, the breach statement and the original RA1. And if there's any other material generated, it would be attached here as well.
So that's fantastic, Ollie. We've got a couple of questions, then we'll come into perhaps some of the data that comes out of it. And I think building on the point you've just mentioned, there isn't a direct integration with your record management system, is there?
No.
You are update. Does allow you to import the information?
No, we're not able to import the information. So at the start of the process with generating the RA1, that's a Word document that Athena produces, and we then scrape the data from that Word document. And at the other end, the crime recording end, it's this email where we provide it for manual data entry. There's obviously technologies we could deploy to take that one step further, but we're not quite there yet.
No problem. And have you used any premium connectors to build this?
No, we haven't. It's all out of the box, off the shelf in our E5 license. I think there are premium connectors in Power Automate that allow or enable the data scraping from a Word document, but I deployed another technique which let us do it without having to invest in any premium connectors.
No problem. Well, I've got more questions already coming in. Please keep your questions coming in. We'll come to them in a second, but perhaps you could give us a bit of an insight into the data that you've now got in relation to this.
Yeah, so another piece of this work was a requirement to deliver a return to the Home Office each month. So we extract some data via Power BI from Athena, and then we compare that data to to what we've gathered with our appointment tracking. And you can see here some of the insights we can gain. So we can break down by offence type, if it was domestic related, the result of the test, the drugs that were detected in that positive test, and then we can also see for each of our local policing areas the rates of attendance and the rates of treatment referral. We've had very, very recently some really valuable insight from this data into the link between domestic related offences and cocaine use, which has allowed an evidence base for the strategic leads and force to make some decisions around how they'd like to target forward testing and treatment.
And you get a timeline as well to your data as well.
Yeah, so this is the number of trigger offences which have been tested through the pilot stages of this solution. It's really important to highlight here, I think, that there's been no performance drivers by management of the number of tests. So this growth is completely organic. We've improved the process, we've made it simpler, and as a result, we've got some really natural growth. You can see that the light blue circles are where we've rolled out at the 5 different locations, and then there's a couple of little anomalies both up and down in our testing data, which we attribute to some intensification work, a period where our blocks were closed for a week at a time each, And then we went for an Athena upgrade, which caused some extra demands in force across the board, and has had what we believe to be a resulting knock-on effect in the number of tests conducted.
And relating to perhaps to the numbers, and this might be Andrew answers this one, as a question from Steve is, did your referral numbers for the required assessments increase in line with the spike? Did you get better compliance and better actual testing as a result of this approach?
So yeah, as soon as we've improved the process in terms of the infrastructure, then we have seen an uplift, natural uplift in the number of tests that custody blocks are doing. Particularly, I mean, our north of the force have really accelerated. So there, I mean, I think the latest figures are they're testing sort of nearly 80% of what they could be testing coming through their blocks. So they've really gripped with it and run with it. There's one of our blocks that needs some more work doing with it, but that's not down to the infrastructure. That's just the human element and just getting the buy-in. So yeah, the knock-on effect of going one size fits all digital process from the paper and the fragmentation has definitely seen a natural uplift in the testing numbers.
Still a couple more questions I'll come to in a second, but perhaps Ollie, could you take us what the next steps are?
Yeah, so next steps for this are to actually wrap it up into a Power App. The processes that are already live are the same ones that would sit behind any Power App solution. So we're building a new front end for this. Secondly, the bookings, the appointment bookings use Microsoft Bookings. So we're going to design that out and take that calendar solution into the Power App. It'll allow us to be a bit more streamlined and just have a standalone solution. We've also found we can never predict the human element when we map out these processes, and we found quite a few human errors which we hadn't allowed for, such as putting incorrect reference numbers into reference number fields. So the Power App will detect those, and we've got some big buttons that we can then push to fix each of those issues rather than current manual work. And then we're looking to integrate with partners who are not inside West Mercia. As Andy said, we're a 5-county force. We've got 5 providers, but we do border West Midlands Police. So we've got an arrangement with their provider and some offence tracking there. But we're looking to build on that and make it a little bit more accessible to our custody sergeants. I think we've got a couple of screenshots of the early version of the Power App. So this is a dashboard view. It's just a canvas app that I've put together, and this is a per appointment view it includes a document manager, so that in the same window you can see any documents that are associated with the appointment and get a preview. So this comes in great use when we're quality assuring. We can open the statement and look at the data we've already got, and then these data-driven actions. So depending on the state of the appointment, what data is held, we've got different functions available for those different statuses.
Thanks. I'll just turn to the last few of the questions that have come in for both of you, if we could, please. Now, we've already answered about the question from Courtney in relation to that you don't need premium licenses for this. And for me, this is a fantastic example of building something iteratively and then being able to prove its worth and then invest the more time into the Power App, which sounds the route you're going down on this one. In terms of quality assurance for the RA process, what was that quality assurance process, Andrew?
Yeah, so the quality assurance process wasn't the RA, because that's the bit where someone tests positive in custody. The custody sergeant fills out the appointment details. That generates the RA1. They serve that on the individual, and that gives them their time and date of the appointment. What we quality assure is when the drugs worker reports a breach to us, we quality assure the statement that they send in before it goes off to our crime recording department. Now, you could get away with that step. You could have it fully automated, but we see a huge human error factor in the drugs worker statements. We've got that many drugs workers that you see multiple errors in relation to incorrect dates, incorrect names, they cut and paste errors. So it's just safer just for and me, and there's a Spock at each custody block, a custody sergeant that would just quickly scan over those statements and make sure they're fit for purpose before it goes off for crime recording into the court system.
And just one last question from Peter before we get into a quick wrap up and show what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. How long did it take to set this process up and get it all up and running to the position you're in now?
So we've incrementally done it over a 12-month period. So because we're a massive geographic force, it was about going out to each of those blocks, making sure that we got it a nominated spot there, that we actually briefed the drugs teams that cover that area. So for us, because of the amount of drugs teams involved, the amount of drugs workers and the amount of geographic miles that we had to cover, it was easier to do it probably every couple of months. So that's hence it took us about 10 months to roll that out. Phase 2 will be a lot quicker when we move it into the Power App process. And the whole idea of that is that at the moment, Ollie is a single point of failure for version 1. The Power App will give us into the Force process, into the Force IT department, and they will give it that 24/7 support that it will need moving forward. Because when Ollie gets promoted and moves on, he won't be available to do what he's doing there for us.
And there's a message that popped in front of me from Len, says that Ollie, you did a lot of this in your spare time. You're not part of the Power App team. We were just lucky enough in West Mercia to have you there to be able to innovate and to deliver this. So fantastic achievement. Thank you both, and Len in the background, who's been chip-beaving away with the team, for helping to present this today. Just to give you an idea of what's coming up over the next couple of months or so, we've got an awful lot of events coming up. They're on the screen now. They're on the PDS website. There is something big to be announced for later on in the year soon. But I do want to highlight the security and policing event, because if you do want to go to that event, you do need to pre-register. Everybody who goes to that event is actually vetted by the Home Office in order to attend. So if you are interested in attending that, head over to their website now and get used to that. Remember, you can replay our Wednesday webinars at any time on the YouTube channel, and get in touch with your business engagement manager. It's the business engagement managers who highlight these sort of stories that we can bring to you and to do those sort of things. So please get in touch, give us any feedback, and thanks for joining us today. Once again, thanks to the West Mercia team for sharing so much with us. It's been a fantastic webinar kickoff zone. We were a little bit rusty with the admin at the very beginning, but we're up and running now. So hope you'll see us in a couple of weeks for our next Wednesday webinar. Thanks for watching, everyone.